Aho, kitipilo hele, yesipi yayani, lasawanwa.
Hello, and welcome to Among the Shawnee, a podcast for Absentee Shawnee Tribal members. I'm your host, Mindy Longhorn, Media Director for the Absentee Shawnee Tribe. Hello, I am so excited to welcome to the show today Treasurer Joseph Blanchard. Welcome, Treasurer.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mindy.
I really want to just say, finally, I've been bugging him for ever since we started. Get on the podcast, do the podcast. So I'm really excited that you're here today. We're going to do this.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity and the invitation. It's always good to get out and visit with our tribal members and relatives, keep them informed of ongoing activities and changes to the system, improvements to the system. For me, it's always busy, always something going on, and it's been 2 years since you've been asked me.
And we know you're not much of a talker, so no, pretty shy guy. Yeah, and you are busy, so I'm really excited that we were able to sit down today. We've got a lot of things that we could talk about, but I think one of the things that we're going to focus on first is economic development. And in April, General Counsel, you introduced a survey, and I think not a lot of tribal members took the survey.
Not up to this point, but you're exactly right. So at General Counsel, our office, along with ECM and some of the other programs, we had some conversations, had some meeting discussion, and then so we compiled some simple questions. I think there were 20 questions altogether, but they're open-ended questions. And so, the questions in themselves are what tribal members would like to see as far as improvements to their tribe, things that not just here at the tribe, but within their communities where they live in Shawnee, Tecumseh, Lilacs, Norman areas. And of course, for us, that gives us the opportunity to really gauge the improvements that they want to see. And for me, that's important because I know for the previous 4 years in my first term, I talked about advantages of having a new tax revenue base, new opportunities, jobs, creation, just all the things that come with improvements to the system and creating new business for the tribe. Of course, within the tribal system in itself, we've got the health center, we've got the bank, we've got the casino. The C-store, thank you. So those are the four primary that we utilize. But for 4 years, I've been talking about the opportunity to look at diversification and expansion into other areas, expansion into areas outside of our normal interest, but not only that, but also expanding into other jurisdictional areas that are not either owned by other tribes or that go outside our existing boundaries.
And so it's funny because tribal members always say, you guys don't, you're not listening, or maybe you don't ask their opinion. And now you're asking their thoughts, and not a lot of people are taking the survey, right?
Well, it's...
but they need to. They should.
The QR code, the link are on the website. They're on our social media page, which thank you for bumping that every week. So right now we've got, I think, about 40 people within the community who have responded. I'd like to see that jump up to 100. It'd be great to have 200 people.
Take the survey.
Yes. But the thing about it is, for me, it helps dictate and helps us make choices and decisions that are beneficial to the community and actually move towards what the tribal member wants.
Right.
But jobs, taxes, creation, those are all little things that will help improve our system. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to the leadership. What options do we have in front of us? What opportunities options that we have, proposals. My office gets proposals quite often from companies. The other leadership receive those, and then they bounce around between the five of us, and then we make decisions on some of those. And sometimes there's not a lot of discussion because it's not reasonable or feasible for us to look at or become involved. But then there's others that I know I think in Governor's podcast from April, he talked about, or at least at General Council, he talked about the solar panel project.
He's talked about it several times.
Yes.
He has.
I don't disagree with it. I think it's a great opportunity. But, for me at least, when I look at the paperwork, what I take away from it is it beneficial to the tribe? What's the investment? What's the return of the investment? How long will it take before we get all that back recouped by the tribe? And then what's the potential income that'll be generated off of that? But further, how many jobs does it create? And so those are things that I look at for the tribal members' benefit and just in general, profit loss margins. If the profit's not there, then I agree that it would be helpful to have some profit or at least some revenue compared to zero revenue. But at the same time, also remembering that, for an annual profit, what would you like to see? And at the end of the day, if we're going to invest $5 million into something of that magnitude or $10 million, I would hope to see a return within that first year to 2 years, and something at an exponential amount that, again, reproduces every year.
I mean, that's a smart move right there. So hopefully they'll take the survey. Like you said, it's on social media, it's on the website, it's been in the paper. It's pretty easy to find. If you can't find it, I'll gladly email it to you. That way everyone has the opportunity to voice their opinions on what they want to see.
Well, and it's not just for the survey in itself. I mean, it literally, the reason we came about with the survey is we were talking amongst ourselves and then even with my staff, but I noticed that the last time we actually had a strategic plan goes back to about 2006, 2009. Wow. So it's been, a good 15 years or thereabouts since the people directed us and what they actually want. So kind of like the election, this is your opportunity to voice your opinion and say what you want, how you want. And, I think we've got a good group that have been working together. We listen to the community, and we try to do what we think is best for the community and advance the tribe.
So will the tribal members know the results? Are you going to issue something later?
Yeah, so the survey is actually up until the end of this month of June. So when we close at the end of this month, I don't remember what the date is. I think it's June 30th as a Monday. So when it closes, then we'll compile the data and the information. We'll go through and look at all the recommendations, suggestions from the community. Like I said, there's about 20 questions, so they were all open-ended, so a lot of opportunity for people to express themselves. We'll compile all that data, put it in a format. I'll turn it over to the executive committee, provide suggestions. I'll also provide a copy to the tribal membership that will be in the tribal member only section, so they'll have to log in on the website.
On the website.
And then additionally, this is a good segue into ACEDA.
Right.
Economic Development Authority. So then,
we haven't really heard a lot from them lately, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So, ACEDA over the last however many years.
Okay. So since you said we're talking about economic development here, let's talk about ACEDA a little bit, which is Absentee Shawnee Economic Development Authority. If someone doesn't know, there's some things in the works maybe with them?
Yeah. So over the last few years, there's been a group of individuals, a couple of tribal members, one non-tribal member. So there are 4 individuals on the group. And as they continue to have meetings, that is one of the things that's their vision, that's their mission, is to find opportunities for the tribe. Over the years, the tribe has not been able to give them as much funding as they've needed. So as we continue to navigate, that's one of the simple questions we've tried to figure out is, how do we fund ACEDA to let them fulfill their mission, but then also getting qualified individuals on the ACEDA board to be able to create and navigate their way through that economic development process. The 4 members who are on there, I think, are highly qualified, highly skilled. 3 are tribal members, 1 is non-tribal, or let me rephrase, non-AST. But overall, there's an engineer, there's a legal person, and then there's an individual who has 30 years of marketing and promotion experience. Also, then when you look at then the other individual who sits on a couple of other boards throughout the state dealing with economic development and community developments.
So they've got some knowledge.
Yes.
They're bringing to the table something other than, so you guys filled the board with knowledgeable people.
Correct. And actually there's one position still remaining on the board. So, once we get some other people involved with that, that's kind of the thing, is trying to find people who are business minded, trying to find people who understand tribal emphasis, tribal business, and again, having that relatable experience. Two of the individuals live out of state, but because of current technology, they're able to call in.
Zoom in, call in, right.
Yes, so we have conference calls with them about once every 2 weeks. And, it's with AI and all the stuff that's going on, record keeping and all of that is so much easier nowadays than what it was even just 2 years ago.
Well, look where we're at today. I mean, I never thought we would get here to where the EC can come on and have conversations, so I'm excited. I wish we could do this every week, but I know that's not going to happen. So was there anything else that you wanted to mention that ACETA is doing or anything?
Well, overall, as I mentioned, they're trying to look at opportunities for their tribe, but right now they're going back, they're reviewing their charter, they're looking at their mission, their vision, statements, and they're actually working through their paperwork to get rid of some outdated material, bring us into the 21st century, and then present some new information for us as the executive committee to help them modernize. So we're pretty excited about that.
That's exciting. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. And so myself and Secretary sit as liaisons to that group. So we're ex officio members. So we're on those calls almost every other week, and we try to keep not only the interactions and information going back and forth between us and the staff, but also keeping the other EC involved.
So with this survey coming out, will they play a role in that possibly?
It may help them develop some additional ideas for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So as we continue, everybody takes their cue from the executive committee,
right?
And so as we help solicit the information, we'll disseminate the info to everybody, to the different groups that need it, and then even from the aspect that where we don't think gaming, or we're trying to outsource or do something different with gaming,
mm-hmm.
gaming is still there.
Yeah.
It's never going to go
away.
away.
It's not going to go away.
So, again, it's one of our primary resources that we utilize. However, we're looking at expansion. How can we build on the existing facility? How can we make ourselves more competitive? Because it's a saturated market. I mean, within 20 minutes of this location, you can find 6 casinos.
At least. Mm-hmm.
So everybody has gaming options to go to, whether it's us, Seminole Nation, Sac and Fox, or Chickasaws. But at the end of the day,
you didn't mention the neighbors to the north. Sorry. No, you didn't. You left them out.
CPNs. Yes.
CPNs, yes.
Well, overall, you've got.
You do have options. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so what we're looking at is how can we be competitive in that. But I know they're having their own discussions with their board as far as hotels, expansion, new restaurants and things coming to Lilacs area.
But that's what you want to see. That's economic development.
It is, but at the same time, is it reasonable? Is it feasible? You're going to spend $1 million to bring in a company and then not make $1 million.
Right.
Or,
are you going to fill your hotel in Little X?
Exactly.
I mean,
so the simple questions that have to be answered. If we build a 120-room hotel, will it be full every weekend?
Or would you lose money paying your staff to run the hotel and keep the lights on? But like you said, the survey is a good opportunity for someone. Maybe they've got a great idea. Tell you guys.
Well, we're excited. And so, again, it'll end on June 30th. So once that information is collected and compiled, like I said, it'll be disseminated to the different groups and to the community. So once it's all said and done, we'll have a better idea of how the people want us to move forward. I would rather include the people versus just dictate to them.
Right. Here's what we're going to have.
Yeah.
So, okay. I want to ask you something because I know you've got 3 years left on your term. Do you have any economic development ideas or plans as the treasurer? Because I know you've got 3 years left.
Well, a lot of the ideas that we've been emphasizing the last couple of years, we have weekly roundtable, we have discussion amongst ourselves as the executive committee. A lot of those ideas actually originated within our office or through discussion. And again, what's the local environment providing for us? So we try to be very proactive in a lot of the steps that we've been implementing the last few years. But even with the election, with Trump being in office, we've had to be somewhat reactive because it may be this today, but then midweek on Wednesday it's
going to change again,
and
right?
then it changes again on Friday, or they issue an opinion this week by Friday, and then by next Wednesday it changes again.
They'll
or
reverse
a month
it,
later.
right?
So, overall, we've tried to be very receptive. We've established good relationships in D.C. We've have good relationships with our elected officials in Oklahoma City, and so that communication is important. But again, when we look at opportunities for us as a tribe, tribal sovereignty is important. Exercising our rights and being able to do things based on what our treaties say. And giving us the best opportunity to be successful, to be self-sufficient, self-sustainable. So at the end of the day, those are things that I'm thinking about when I go to sleep at night. Did I forget anything? Or did I send that email? Or, okay, like tomorrow, I'm in Oklahoma City for consultations with the Department of Interior over whatever the executive order is. And so I'll have an opportunity to communicate with those executive or
individuals,
federal policy decision makers. Yes, and so we'll have those conversations in Oklahoma City at the Supreme Court tomorrow, and those are just things. That's a typical week.
That's your daily.
Yes, almost every day it's an email, it's a phone call, initiating those conversations or returning phone calls to say, hey, just like the Turnpike issue a month ago,
which has turned again. It's overturned. Like what the route this week has changed from what it was last month. That's a whole other thing. But I know they brought that up at General Council. Are the tribal leaders aware and involved in what's going on, especially nationally? And you just said we're constantly in contact with them.
So I know Governor and I, we have a lot of conversations. The other EC, we have that weekly discussion, but I interact more with the governor because of, again, policy, decision making, the contracts, and all those things that we see. Even with those discussions, before we send it to the AG, we have a lot of back and forth before we even send it to the AG, because the reality is how much we pay the AG to do his job. I don't need to send a document to him 5 times to review it when we're educated enough that we can review it the one time, make suggestions, and then, okay, is this legal? We put it in the correct format, and we give it over to him, and then he's like, yeah. So we move forward.
That makes sense. Something that you said earlier, I want to kind of circle back. You mentioned President Trump, and like you said, every week there's different changes, but he's been making a lot of cuts. How is the tribe? Has that affected? How are we standing right now?
Well, my position is very similar to the way we were back in January. Right after his swearing-in ceremony on January 20th, the executive committee met briefly on that Friday, and I reminded the EC that were there in that meeting, guys, this is 4 days. We've got 4 years of dealing with this. So I reminded them, it's time to go to work. It's time to figure out and earn our paychecks and reestablish some of those old relationships that, not just with the people in D.C., but at our state level. But additionally, with 38 tribes in Oklahoma, it's important to have conversations with those other leaders. With Governor Johnson being here, I think this is his 10th, 11th year? Something like that. That continuity really has been beneficial because he has those established relationships with some of those other tribes, personal relationships to where they can text or call each other, and within a matter of days, he'll share that information back with us, and then now we create a resolution that moves it forward to say, okay, or here's the official response of the tribe, and then we put something out to the public. So overall, my advice to the tribe, and I've sent a couple of emails to our employee base after a lot of that, what's the word you call the Debbie Downer syndrome or whatever. After everybody got over that the initial shock of everything, I reminded people that we anticipated this back in November during the election when it was announced he was going to be the president. So we knew from November to January, here's things that we need to accomplish while we have the current board and the current people, federal people in place in policy, and then being able to move forward. We weren't able to just get all those last minute meetings accomplished. So now we're having to reestablish or create new relationships with the people who are in office. And even though we're now officially into June, a lot of those people still have not been confirmed. Not everybody that we interact with, some of them still have interim or acting titles. So we're waiting for those individuals to be finally confirmed and put in as the official person so we can establish those relationships. And then go back and follow up with, here's our issues, here are our concerns, and then address those as they become necessary.
And hopefully they will listen. Hopefully. I mean, it's going to be a long 4 years. It's, what did you say, 6 months in? So 3.5 years?
Well, really it'll be 3 because, just like all presidents, they'll have that last month or so where they'll put in things at the last minute. But when we get to that point, who in our leadership will still be here at that point?
Because we'll have elections. We'll have some in 2 years and then 3, I think.
27 and 28.
27 and 28, and which is when we get a new president. 28.
Yes. So, but to your point, I'm really excited because, as I told a lot of our people and I've talked about, we have mid-year elections coming up in 26. So we're already starting to see the campaigning for governor here in the state. So
can we have a cheer? Yes.
We're pretty excited about that. I've met 2 of the 4 candidates that have announced so far. So I've met the current Attorney General, Mr. Drummond, and then the former Speaker of the House. I met them both this past summer. Had an opportunity to share some viewpoints with them and talk about, but for the last few years, most people don't realize this, but A.G. Drummond has been, at least in my opinion, an ally to tribal nations across our state and has really emphasized the importance of the relationship and what tribes bring to our local and state economy.
Which we know is billions. With a B. I want to say that again. Billions, right. And I don't think our current governor, Stitt, realizes or cares, really. I just feel like that's where we're at today with him. And that brings me to something else that he has been very defiant on, is the car tag issue. And I know the Tax Commission is one of your oversights. So is there anything that you want to tell us about that? I feel like it's been a hot topic. It
has been. So 2 things I will mention about the car tags. So, of course, first and foremost, our tribe is in compliance with the OLET system.
I think a lot of tribal members are wondering about that.
So we are a part of the OLET system, which allows for the highway patrolmen, all those state agencies and federal agencies, access to our list of tribal members who have car tags. So all the banter that's been going back and forth the last, I don't know, however many months, basically the last year.
It feels like forever.
A lot of that has just been his way to scare the public into thinking the tribes aren't compliant. The tribes aren't taking their fair share of whatever the costs are, which is completely inaccurate. I actually requested copies of our old treaties going back to the first treaty, and even the Jay Treaty, which is something that was signed back in the 1700s. Those, a lot of them, what people don't realize is for a lot of tribal nations, those give tribes the opportunity to travel and utilize regular roads without interference, without paying fees, without being taxed, but nobody remembers them because they're 300 years old.
Mm-hmm. And then he created this, this fear-mongering. People didn't even want to drive. They were afraid to drive. I'm going to get arrested. I'm going to get pulled over with my tribal tag.
The good part for us is just like a lot of the majority of the people within the state and the other tribes, it was only a handful of opportunities there in that first year when I think that was 23 when that first happened.
And I think it was on social media. And I think it really got out of hand or maybe overplayed because they were ramping it up.
Well, as long as you're within the state, there's nothing saying that you can't have a car tag. Mm-mm. Now, there's some debate about what is jurisdiction.
Right.
And again, that's the whole argument is it our tribe's jurisdiction or is it Indian jurisdiction? And so considering that the whole east side of the state of Oklahoma has been declared Indian reservation.
Well, the whole state technically is. I mean, if you want to look at it that way.
So there's some technicalities, but we won't get into that today.
That's a whole other episode. See, you're going to have to come back. See, I'm trying to make you come back.
I'll be back in a year.
A year. No, you're going to have to come back before then. But it's also June. Something else I think you wanted to talk about was this is the time of year to say the audit.
So every year, with the health expansion that began before I was ever elected in office, even our current other EC members, this was a part of the agreement with BIA, with the banks, with the funding agencies, that the tribe would submit their audit by June 30th of every year. It's something that we always do, so we're finalizing the last little bit of paperwork. I should get the final email in about 2 weeks or so. With all the final documentation reports. I have to sign an affidavit that says I swear and agree that these are all, that nothing is false or misleading, blah, blah, blah. And so I'll sign that document that there's been no fraud. Governor will sign another document that says all the information Treasurer has provided is true and accurate, da-da-da. And then it'll get filed by June 30th with all the parties, and we're good until next year.
And it starts all over again.
Well, the good part is once the audit is done for us internally, something that we created in my first year in 20, we realized that grants and some of our spending or funding opportunities, the expenditures, we were waiting for whatever reason until October, to the last quarter, October, November to spend our money. And really what we have always emphasized since I've been in office is let's spend and get rid of the federal funds first before we ever touch our tribal money. That way it gives us money to carry over to the next year, or again, if we don't utilize it, now we can leave it in the bank and it's generating the interest that we get. And that's beneficial to us as a tribe.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the car tag.
Yes.
Real quickly. So the one thing I forgot to mention, and I talked about it briefly in this month's newsletter, it didn't appear in the newsletter as I expected. Tag office didn't get that over to your office. And
the designs.
The designs, yes.
That's right.
So there are 3 designs that the the tax commissioners have voted on and approved, and so they're going to give that back to the community to look at, give them some choices to go whatever they like. But we also understand that there are people who like our design, who are very traditional. They don't want to change it.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're going to leave it like it is, but we do have to add the AS or whatever it is that's at the end to make sure there are 6 symbols on the actual tag and to make it compliant with whatever federal
right, because there's some regulations,
yeah.
Right? You can't just make it whatever you want, because I would have made it pink. So,
well, and really when people see it, I like that they included the different prints from the different clans that we represent in our tribe. So there's a traditional aspect in there, or cultural aspect. So I'm really glad that they took that into consideration. And so the 2 ladies that are on the board of commissioners, really emphasize some of the things. And we've got some things that are going to be coming in from their office to the executive committee in the next few weeks for either June or July's EC meeting.
Because the car tag's been it's been the same design for a long time. It's just kind of plain, but some people like that, and that's okay if you don't want to change. So hopefully people will vote on that too.
Yes.
And take the survey, which is up till June.
Yes.
So if you didn't take the survey and you want to, it is on the website, Facebook. It's been in the paper. It's up here. I've seen it in some of the buildings. So you shouldn't have an excuse not to take it, right?
I thought I saw it in your paper.
I did. I brought it with me. You can scan the code. There's going to be a link to hold it up. That's the survey. That is it. So they should definitely take the survey. Before we close, is there anything else that you wanted to say? Maybe we didn't hit on today?
Overall, I'm always humbled of being able to be put in this position, to be elected and be an official to represent our people. It's something I take a lot of pride in. Getting to speak with our tribal membership, represent our people at the different functions that we attend, those are things that I don't take for granted. This summer we're just now finishing up graduation time frame, so a lot of the kids that graduated, I wrote that into my newsletter this past month. The most student athletes we've had in our tribe's history that I'm aware of. So being able to acknowledge that, to get your education paid for, to have an opportunity to extend that athletic career into the next level, those are things that, especially me as a parent, I'm happy to know I don't have to worry about my child or those handful of kids because their educations are taken care of. And so, we as parents, or even as the tribe, we've helped donate to help take care of those individuals to help them fuel to the next level. And for me, that's a great opportunity for them, their families, and again, they're ambassadors for our tribe wherever they go to.
Exactly.
But beyond that, I would just say again, I'm grateful and humbled to people for putting me in this position. And I'm gracious for you to be patient, to ask me to come on the show.
I bug you all the time. But I feel like, people want to hear what you have to say. So I think it's important to have the EC on here. We've had some of them on, trying to get the rest. And I really appreciate you being here today. And hopefully you'll come back. You've open invitation anytime. Thank you for getting here, Treasurer. Thank you for listening. I'm Mindy Longhorn. We hope you join us next time as we talk among the Shawnee.
Yahweh, Yesi Hakueta Wiani, Salanoki Kedolepwa.